300th. And before we get started, I just want to let you guys know today's video is a whopper. We're talking 6.5 pages of notes, so be sure to grab a snack. Seriously, you're gonna really need a snack. I'm talking some good snackage. What? That's insensitive. That is an inappropriate snack for this You're absolutely right. I'm sorry, Ariel. I'm really sorry. I'll get a different one. You guys were really right. That was, like, really inappropriate. I got a different one. Don't worry about it. What? Still... You're right. I'll stop. Get a different one. Okay, there's no way this one is insensitive, okay? Like, there's just... It's... Are we serious? Fine. This is the last time I'm doing this. Last time! Is this better? Good. Let's go. Welcome back to Every Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Every Disney Movie Ever. Today I'm going to talk about The Little Mermaid. It's the 300th. I cannot believe we're here. I cannot believe The Little Mermaid is my 300th. If you don't know, it's also the 30th anniversary of The Little Mermaid. It's also one of my favorites from when I was a kid, so everything just seems like the planets and stars are aligning, and I'm so excited to talk about The Little Mermaid with you guys today. The Little Mermaid is a 1989 animated theatrical release written and directed by Clements and John Musker. I covered both of them in the video about The Great Mouse Detective. The link will be in the description. Supervising animators include Ruben A. Aquino, Mark Henn, Duncan Marjoribanks, Matthew O'Callaghan, Andreas Deha, and Glenn Keane. All of them I have covered in a previous video, which will be listed in the description, except for Duncan Marjoribanks, who's best known for his Disney work, including Aladdin, The Princess and the Frog, and Pocahontas. The film was edited by Mark A. Hester, who I covered in the video about Oliver and Company. The link will be in the description. All of the music is by Alan Menken, with lyrics by Howard Ashman, and both of them are best known for Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Little Shop of Horrors, and this. How are we doing? Snacking away, I hope? The Little Mermaid is based off a book of the same name by Hans Christian Andersen, released in 1837. Shall we compare? The Little Mermaid lives in an underwater kingdom with her widowed father, grandmother, and 5 sisters. Once 15, a mermaid is allowed to venture to the surface for the first time. Little Mermaid listens longingly to her sisters. The Little Mermaid finally gets her turn and falls for a prince. She saves him from drowning, takes him to a temple, and waits until another woman shows up. The prince doesn't know it was she who saved him. She grows sad and asks her grandmother how long humans live. She says they have a much shorter lifespan, but their souls live on in heaven, while a mermaid lives 300 years and turns to sea foam. The Little Mermaid visits the Sea Witch. The Sea Witch gives her a potion for legs in exchange for her tongue and voice. She can never return to the sea. Once the Little Mermaid takes the potion, she will feel like she's being stabbed, but will have legs and be able to dance beautifully. I mean, okay. Sure. Why not? She will feel as if she's constantly walking on knives and her feet will bleed. Kind of starting to sound not worth it. Yeah, no, okay. She will only obtain a soul if she gets the prince to fall for her. If not, she will die of a broken heart and dissolve into the ocean. The Little Mermaid goes to the surface and takes the potion. The prince finds her and is mesmerized by her beauty despite being mute. He loves when she dances, so she does, despite excruciating pain. The Little Mermaid becomes his favorite companion. The prince's parents want him to marry the neighboring princess, but he refuses, saying he will only marry the temple girl that saved his life. Turns out the girl from the temple is the neighboring princess. He declares his love for her, and a wedding is announced. The prince and princess celebrate their wedding. The Little Mermaid's heart breaks. Before she dies, her sisters rise out of the water with a knife from the Sea Witch in exchange for their hair. The knife must be used to kill the prince, and the Little Mermaid must let the blood flow onto her legs, and she will be a mermaid again for all her days. She can't bring herself to kill him, so she throws herself and the knife into the ocean. She dissolves into foam but transforms into a spirit. She meets other spirits who tell her she strove with all her heart for an immortal soul, and her selflessness has given her the chance to earn a soul by doing good deeds for mankind for 300 years until she's welcomed into the kingdom of God. The end. Obviously, the book and the movie are very different. The book is so graphic and gory compared to the movie. They made some major changes, like giving it a happy ending instead of one that's just kind of like, okay, sure, that's happy, because she was striving for an eternal soul, but she was also in love, so she won some, she lost some. I'm a little shocked by the original story. I knew it was graphic. That's what you hear, but I didn't realize it was that graphic. I had heard about the tongue being cut out, but I didn't hear about the feet bleeding, knife stepping, horrible excruciating pain portions. I didn't hear about the kill the prince and let the blood run out. Like, it was a lot, but They're different, for sure. How are you doing? You hanging in? Did you like that part? I like comparing them. I think it's fun. It's hard to film and hard to edit, but the finished product is worth it for sure. The film stars Jodie Benson, Christopher Daniel Barnes, Samuel E. Wright, Jason Marin, Pat Carroll, Kenneth Mars, Buddy Hackett, Ben Wright, Renee Auberjonois, and Patty Edwards. Jodie Benson plays Ariel. She's best known for being Ariel in literally everything. She's also been in Toy Story 3 and Enchanted. Christopher Daniel Barnes plays Eric, and he's best known for the Brady Bunch movie, A Very Brady Sequel, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, and this. Samuel E. Wright plays Sebastian, and he's best known for Dinosaur, Bird, this, and the sequel. Jason Marin plays Flounder, and he's best known for Back to the Future, Starting from Scratch, Moving, and this. Pat Carroll plays Ursula, and she's best known for Freedom Riders, Songcatcher, Cinderella, and this. Kenneth Mars plays King Triton, and I covered him in the video about the Apple Dumpling Gang riots. Again, the link will be in the description. Buddy Hackett plays Scuttle, and we've technically seen him before in The Love Bug, but that's before I started covering actors, so he's best known for It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, The Love Bug, The Music Man, and this. Ben Wright plays Grimsby, and I covered him in the video about 101 Dalmatians. The link will be in the description. Renee Auberjonois plays Chef Louie, and I covered him in the video about The Christmas Star. The link will be in the description. Patty Edwards plays Flotsam and Jetsam, and she's best known for Hercules, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Star Trek The Next Generation, and this. If during the entire time I did the actors you heard a saw outside, it's because you did. My neighbor decided right now is the perfect time to saw down a tree. Walt originally planned to make The Little Mermaid as part of a package of Hans Christian Andersen tales, but it got delayed after Snow White. Fast forward to 1985, and Ron Clements pulls a book off the shelf called The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen. He thinks it would be the perfect animated feature and writes a 2-page treatment to pitch at the Gong Show meeting. Jeffrey Katzenberg passes on Little Mermaid because he thinks it's too similar to Splash 2, but the next day, he calls Ron and approves it. While looking around, filmmakers found original artwork by Kay Nielsen for the 40s short. They realized a lot of the changes made by the 80s writers were changes that had been made by the 40s writers. Kismet. The project got shelved for Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Oliver and Company. 1987 rolls around and they're back to working on the film. Howard Ashman suggests making Clarence the Crab Sebastian and give him a Jamaican feel to make the sound more contemporary. Musker, Clements, Ashman, and Katzenberg all decide to revise the story to be more like a Broadway musical where the songs are the meat of the film and do nothing but push the plot forward. They can't just be a song, they have to move the plot along. More money was put into animating this film than any film in decades. It was also the first film in decades to use live-action reference footage. Sherry Lynn Stoner and Joshua Finkel were Ariel and Eric, respectively. And you can really see it, too, in the bonus features, which I'll talk about later. They show Sherry doing her live-action reference footage, and you can really see, like, Ariel's expressions and movements in her. Ariel's hair was going to be blonde, but they decided on red because it complemented her tail. They also got her hair modeled off of Women in Space and Sherry in water in the reference footage. Ursula was based on drag performer Devine. B. Arthur was their first choice for Ursula, but she declined. They went through so many others, they landed on Elaine Stritch, who clashed so badly with Ashman, they ended up on Pat Carroll. Jim Carrey apparently read for Prince Eric, and Michael Richards and Bill Maher read for Scuttle. Over 1 million bubbles were drawn for the film. They used airbrushing, backlighting, superimposition, and computer animation. It was the last film to be hand-painted on the cells. They tried to use the multiplane camera, but it was beyond repair, so they had to send it out to get photographed. This was also, if not the first, the second film to be animated at the warehouse on Flower Street and not at the studio. They had to move to the warehouse because the animation department was dying. It was saved by The Little Mermaid. And Part of Your World was almost cut from the film. Katzenberg thought some kids during a screening were bored and decided he wanted it cut from the film because it was boring. Musker and Clements fought with all their might to no avail. Glenn Keane made the biggest deal about it, and Katzenberg said, fine, we can show it one more time in a screening, and it was a giant hit in that screening, so they gotta keep Part of Your World in the film. The film was released in November of 1989. Jeffrey Katzenberg thought this movie wouldn't do as well as Oliver and Company because it was a girl movie, and girl movies always do worse than boy movies. Little Mermaid made $84.4 million in North America in its initial run, 64% better than Oliver and Company. It holds a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes and has very positive reviews. People were enthusiastic, they praised Ariel. The Little Mermaid won 2 Academy Awards, one for Best Original Song, Under the Sea, and one for Best Original Score. Disney used to have this tradition where they would re-release their films in theaters every 7 years so people could see it if they hadn't seen it, but it was being pushed out because of home video releases. They really, really debated whether or not they should not release Little Mermaid on home video and wait to re-release it in theaters, or if they should release it on home video. At the very last minute, they decided to release it on home video, and that was a rush job, and it caused a giant controversy. If you know, you know. If you don't know, I'm sorry. If you have the original VHS tape, they obviously fixed said controversy. They recalled it and fixed said controversy, but we have the original, and if you don't know, I really don't want to say any of the words, but there is a specific tower in the castle that looks like a form of genitalia. I kind of want to point it out, but I don't want this video to get demonetized. So, it's on here. It's not. It just looks like it. And they said it was an accident because it was a rushed job. So, it's fine. Everything in here is kind of a certain form. It resembles phallic objects. But there's one in particular dead center that it just is. So maybe in the behind the scenes or something, I'll point it out, or I'll just do like another video later today and point it out because I really, really don't want to get demonetized, so I'm not about to zoom in on the controversial part of this VHS tape because we're already, long in the tooth in this video. So if you have this, you can look for yourself. You will find it. You will definitely find it. I found it easy. But if you don't have the one that has it, maybe I'll post a video later pointing it out specifically. Are we liking the video so far? I'm having a great time. They stopped cutting down the trees. I haven't heard it. I'm very happy. How are we doing? Is everybody good? Next part's going to be a little long, sorry. As I'm sure you could tell by the thumbnail, I own the Blu-ray. This is the 30th anniversary edition Blu-ray that is being given away tomorrow. Not this one specifically, this one's mine. The other one is unopened. This one has been opened. This one is mine. I also own the DVD. I also own the VHS. I'm pretty sure my brother has the DVD. We have like 1 million copies of this film in our house. Obviously now I have the digital one. We love this movie in my house. My mom loves this movie. There's a clip somewhere when I was filming sometime of my mom saying how much she loves this movie. We loved this movie growing up. Obviously we have the first version of the VHS tape, so I can't stress enough how much we love this movie. I will get to my personal notes. There were over 3 hours of bonus features on this Blu-ray, and I know I said I would stop kind of covering the bonus features, but at the same time, it's the 300th, it's Little Mermaid. I feel like it has to be done. I'm going to list all of them. It's going to be much faster paced than how I used to do the bonus features, but I will talk about ones specifically that I think are important or are fun to talk about, starting with the first bonus feature on here, which is called Alan Menken and the Leading Ladies. It is Jodie Benson, who plays Ariel, Paige O'Hara, who plays Belle, Judy Kuhn, who plays the singing voice of Pocahontas, Lilias White, who plays the lead muse, and Donna Murphy, who plays Mother Gothel, all sitting down with Alan Menken and talking about their roles and the impact that those films had on them and the world. And each of them sings a piece of a song from their movie, and it's so powerful. They get emotional. I got emotional. I was crying watching a bonus feature. Jodie Benson said such wonderful, sweet things about Part of Your World and Little Mermaid and how she can't believe she's been singing the song for 30 years and she doesn't get sick of it because it's a story. It's a monologue just set to music. Paige O'Hara did a little piece of something there and talked about how she loved that song so much because it really was the moment she fell in love with the Beast. Judy Kuhn sings the very beginning of Colors of the Wind, and everybody had goosebumps and got teary when she said, "How can there be so much that you don't know?" It was so good. Lilias White got up and sang Zero to Hero a little bit. It was so fun, and Donna Murphy grew up a little bit with the Disney movies and thought it was such an honor to come in and be Mother Gothel and all of them sing pieces of their songs, and then at the end, Alan just kind of plays a little bit of Part of Your World, and all of them get emotional. I was a crying mess. The next section was called All I Want From You Is Your Voice, and it was literally video from back in the 80s of every actor in their recording sessions recording their characters. It was very cool. The next section was called Treasures Untold, and it was hosted by 2 actors from a Disney Channel show that I have no idea what it is or watch, but it had some fun trivia in it. It said every name of Ariel's sisters was inspired by someone, so like Alana was inspired by Alan Menken, and Adrena was like the name of some show. It was really fun trivia. The next section was Part of Your World, a look back, and it was Alan and Jody alone at the piano this time talking about Part of Your World and looking back at it and reminiscing how Howard Ashman was just right there with Jody trying to get her to do it, and she talked about how she eventually had to be sitting in the corner of the room in the dark singing it to herself so she could really capture that she felt like she was trapped, and it was awesome. Next was an alternate version of Fathoms Below. It was really just an extended version of Fathoms Below where they had a verse talking about how Ursula was Triton's sister. The next section was called Walt's Office, Gadgets and Gizmos, and they went through Walt's miniature collection. He really loved collecting miniatures, and they just kind of show you everything and what he liked to collect. Next was a deleted scene called Backstage with Sebastian, where he's backstage with Ariel's sisters, and they realize she's missing, and he goes out and tries to stall the concert. Next was Harold the Merman, who was a deleted character, but really just a deleted scene. Harold was a merman who went to Ursula for help. He couldn't keep his end of the bargain, so she keeps him, and you kind of learn what it's like dealing with Ursula. Next was a music video for Part of Your World by D Capella, or Da Cappella, or I don't know. It's the Disney a cappella group that's really famous. Next was another extended scene where Sebastian is giving Ariel advice on like, you gotta bet your eyes like this when she's falling asleep on him. He says a few more things that had been edited out, and that's just with them edited in. Next was another Part of Your World music video by Carly Rae Jepsen. It was yikes. Next was the live action reference footage section, which was so cool because they had gone so long without doing live action reference footage. They didn't really know how it worked, so the directors and animators had to find Catherine Beaumont, who was Alice and Wendy, and she had to come in and kind of explain to them how the live action reference footage situation went back in the 40s and 50s, and they were able to then kind of do that, but they did it a little bit differently. They couldn't have some big empty set. They were on a budget, so they had a room with like a grid in the back, and they would spin Sherry and Josh on like chairs and different things they'd try to do. Sherry, it was so cool to see that footage and just hear Sherry and Josh interviewed and talk about it, but Sherry, her movements and her like combing and her different aerial movements are so clear as day. Ariel in the film, like, yeah, they took a lot from Jodie as well, but Sherry's movements and her comedy and her moments in the reference footage are so clearly animated in the film. It was really cool. The next section was called Howard's Lecture. Howard Ashman was the lyricist on this film, Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. He was so unbelievably talented, and we lost him too soon to AIDS, unfortunately, but he did a lunchtime lecture. John Musker and Ron Clements introduced how back during this time they would have lunchtime lectures where they have an artist or a filmmaker or whatever, someone come from outside the studio and give a lecture on their particular craft, and people would go during lunch and, you know, watch this hour-long lecture, and they decided to have Howard give one, and they show clips of Howard's lecture, and it's so beautiful, and it's so wonderful, and just how passionate he is about the music in The Little Mermaid is so stunning, but you can tell he's shy a little bit, and just the way he talks about it, how he's like, there's foreshadowing in this song, how she talks in Part of Your World, how she talks about what would I give, what would I pay, and then she goes to the Sea Witch and pays with her voice and not seeing her family ever again, and just, it was so wonderful to watch Howard's lecture, and even John Musker got emotional talking about Howard. It was really beautiful. Next was an alternate fight with Ursula, how it was going to go instead of the way it did go, and this fight was different. She didn't get as big. Ariel didn't get her voice back until after Ursula was defeated. Eric stabbed Ursula with the trident instead of with a boat. It was pretty different, actually. And Ursula had like stripes, kind of like a tiger almost, which was kind of interesting. It was a little bit different of a design, but it was still really cool to see, and I got emotional at the end of that ending. I'm a mess. Next was the story behind the story, which talked about Hans Christian Andersen and his life and how this story was his life. He wrote himself into the story. He was immortal. via his stories and his writing, but he never had love. And in his version of the fairy tale, she gets to be immortal by earning her immortal soul by serving mankind, but she never had love. The next section was called At Disney Animation, and it was a bunch of different animators of different ages talking about how wonderful it is to work at Disney's animation studios. And the best part of this bonus feature was when they talked about how every April Fool's Day, everyone is encouraged to do caricatures of everybody else. And they do this giant hall of caricatures, and you have to put your name on it to own that that's the caricature you drew. And apparently John Musker is the best, and he does like 1,000 of them to try and get everybody to have a caricature. It was a really fun little segment. I loved it. The next section was called Jodie at New Fantasyland, and it's Jodie Benson and her kids quite a few years ago, obviously, because I'm pretty sure New Fantasyland opened in 2012. So quite a few years ago, taking you through New Fantasyland and what it's like to go to Disney. And Jodie has been going to Disney since she started working for Disney, and her and her family love going to Disney theme parks. So it was really fun to see that. It was cute. The next section was called Storm Warning Special Effects, and it was a bunch of the special effects guys taking you through the storm section of the movie and reminiscing about how they worked on it and what they did, and how they took things that were even used in Pinocchio and all of this to overlay and really make that storm believable and wonderful. Next was the Part of Your World lyric video, and for some reason they were spread out, but there's a lyric video for every song. So Part of Your World, Les Poissons, Under the Sea, Kiss the Girl, and Poor Unfortunate Souls all had a lyric video. Poor Unfortunate Souls was my favorite. I thought the whole design of the lyrics and everything was the coolest during Poor Unfortunate Souls. I have pictures of each. I'll put them here, but I don't want to list them later when all of them have lyric videos, and so they're all right here. The next section was called Ride the Attraction, where you can digitally ride the Ariel's Grotto ride, but I think it was a different version of the version that's actually in Disney World, because the version in Disney World like ends where they're kissing and getting married, and this version ended like back on Kiss the Girl again. I don't know. And then there's another one called Ride with the Imagineers, where it's the same exact ride, but the Imagineers, who helped build it, kind of commentate and tell you what it took to do it. And then there's also a bonus feature called The Ride That Almost Was, and it was much longer ago than when Ariel's Grotto was made, when they entertained the idea of making a ride before they made the Ariel Grotto ride. And I think that's the one you watch, the digital one that you watch, and they kind of talk about how that was made, and there were cool like behind the scenes concept art of it, and it was fun. Next was an Under the Sea presentation reel, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It was the song Under the Sea set to different storyboards and animations and early animations of Under the Sea, so you could get a feel and understand what was going on. Next was Disneypedia Life Under the Sea, and it teaches you about different fish under the sea, specifically fish that were in the film. Next was the Ashley Tisdale Kiss the Girl music video, and I remember this playing on Disney Channel. That fashion, that music video, that version of that song, yikes. Next was the original theatrical trailer for the film. Next is another extended scene of Sebastian in the castle when he goes from the laundry thing and like gets out and goes to the kitchen. Apparently there was a moment between those things where he deals with the dog, and that's what you get to see. Next was the making of The Little Mermaid, and I'm pretty sure this making of The Little Mermaid was from a DVD in like the early 2000s or something, because it's obviously very dated, but it was in 5 parts, and they really discussed, they discussed the warehouse on Flower Street and how it just like lit a fire under everybody. They talked about how Jeffrey Katzenberg and Peter Schneider came in and really shook things up because they expected results. They wanted everything to move quickly. They didn't want to be over budget. They didn't want to take years and years to make the film. They really, it was forces colliding. Jeffrey Katzenberg kept saying it was like forces collided because the animators were so used to the way it was and weren't ready for Jeffrey and Peter to be like, let's go, we're doing this. They talked about Howard Ashman a lot, rest in peace. They talked about how it was over budget and it was so fast, and they were worried that it might not make it, and they're in the warehouse all nervous, and then it was the right movie at the right time, and it was a major success. Next was an unused song called Silence is Golden. This is the only song that didn't make it into the film because it was originally supposed to be what Poor Unfortunate Souls is, but Howard Ashman and Alan wrote it, and both immediately hated it and threw it out and started work on Poor Unfortunate Souls. It was fine. I like Poor Unfortunate Souls better. The last bonus feature was an extended version of Poor Unfortunate Souls. It had an intro and a missing verse. It had an extra verse. The intro was really Ursula kind of explaining why she got banished from the castle a little bit, because she tried to overthrow King Triton. And then the missing verse is just another attempt at Ursula trying to convince Ariel to sign the deal and do this thing. There's a TV series, which is technically a prequel because she's still a mermaid. There are 2 sequels, direct-to-video, Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea, Little Mermaid 3, Ariel's Beginning. There's a Broadway show, and there's a live-action adaptation happening. Halle Bailey was just cast as Ariel. We are living for that. That was a really long section. Anyone else exhausted? Just me? Naturally, I have a lot of notes about The Little Mermaid, and I'm gonna try and trim them down and make them fast. But this movie means so much to me. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid. It was probably this and Lion King 2 that I just watched over and over and over again. And this movie means a lot to my family because it's my mom's favorite.
I love Little Mermaid. It's my favorite. My favorite songs are Kiss the Girl and Part of Your World. Silly Mom, of course.
Oh my goodness, you're cute. So my mom always had it on because she was like, that's the one I'll tolerate constantly. And my brother loves it. Just, it was a big movie in our family growing up. So nostalgia does play a part in this film for me, but it's also, I watch it once a year, so I know this movie like the back of my hand. However, for some reason, every time I sit down to watch a movie I love or have seen many times, for this project specifically, there's like a different kind of gravity to it. So I have much deeper reactions, and that held very true for this film. I got goosebumps during the opening credits. That's never happened to me before. I have gotten emotional watching the film before, but I've never full-on cried. I cried watching it this time. It just has so much more gravity when I'm watching it, and I'm going to cover it, and I want to do it justice, and I really pay attention, because now at this point I've watched this movie for almost 26 years, and I know the film like the back of my hand, so I bet when I sit down and watch it, I don't really watch it, it's on in the background or whatever, where this time I sat and watched it diligently. I had to take notes, I had to take pictures, and it really, really resonated, and I really just want to say that I love this film, and I am going to talk about my notes, and I'll try to make it fast, because I know I'm 2 hours deep into filming, so I can only imagine how long this video actually is, and I apologize if it's too long and you don't like how long it is, but it deserves this. It's the 300th. It deserves all this information being shared about it because it is an extraordinary film. I truly don't know where to begin, so I think I'm going to try and start with Eric and Ariel. Ariel is a really active character, and I wanted to make sure that I stressed that she's obsessed with the surface before she sees Prince Eric. She always goes to the surface. She tries to find human belongings. She has a grotto filled with all these treasures she's found, and this is all before she's seen Eric at all, let alone Eric up close. She wants to be a part of the surface and a part of that world before she has met Eric. I know a lot of people say like, oh, Ariel left her family and everything just, for a boy, blah, blah, blah. And it's, yeah, the boy was a driving force for sure, but she already wanted to be part of that world before she knew Prince Eric or knew Prince Eric. And on the flip side, Prince Eric is awesome. Anyone that hates on Prince Eric can come fight me. I welcome it because I have ranted many times about how amazing Prince Eric is to a lot of my friends. You can ask Sammy, comment on this. I'm sure she'll watch it. She has been at the receiving end of me ranting about Eric before. I'll never forget standing in my LA apartment on one side of it while she's sitting on another, and I'm just like screaming about how amazing Prince Eric is. It's an actual thing I've done. Prince Eric doesn't treat people like he's above them. He's right down in the grips with them. He's the last one to leave his ship when it's on fire in a storm. He saves everybody but himself. He helps Ariel even though she's a stranger and he doesn't know her. He's in love with the girl who could sing, but what a lot of people don't realize is he straight up is ready to give up that dream girl because he's fallen for Ariel, and the only reason he doesn't is because he's then put under a spell by Ursula/Vanessa with Ariel's magical voice moment, and everyone thinks he's left her just because of the voice, but it literally shows him like being brainwashed, so he's obviously brainwashed and it's not under his control. He actively tries to save Ariel. Ariel actively tries to save him. They're both such active characters, and it's so amazing, and they're both phenomenal characters, honestly. Also, I'm really mad Eric doesn't have a song. I hope they correct that in the live-action film. And I hope it's good and not like Evermore. Oh. This is the first time I've noticed this, but we meet Eric first. We do not meet Ariel first, which I think was an interesting choice. You meet Eric, you're like, oh, he's so attractive, get off my back. Prince Eric's really hot. And we meet him first before we meet Ariel, and I think that's really interesting. They do a really good reveal of Ariel as well. Also, King Triton's first entrance, it's obvious that he plays blatant favoritism with Ariel, and he's also really prejudiced against humans, and they really set that up. And I think we could argue that King Triton has the biggest growth arc in the film. Everybody grows. Ariel learns about the mistakes she's made by going to Ursula, and she really matures and is able to take care of herself by the end of the film. Eric probably has the minimalist growth, but he does grow. He ends up choosing Ariel instead of his dream girl. He grows in the fact that he's like, I have this amazing girl right in front of me and I really love her. Why do I keep hanging on to this dream girl? So he grows a little bit, but Triton goes from being so blatantly favoritizing his daughter, still probably favoritizes Ariel a little bit. Favoritizes? Is that a word? I don't even know. But also having the prejudices against humans, to growing and accepting and letting her be with the humans, giving her the legs and letting her be with Prince Eric, because he realizes that not all of them are bad, because Eric saves him and Ariel from Ursula. And it's beautiful growth. Ugh. I can't keep fawning over Ariel and Eric. I have to fawn over Sebastian, Flounder, and Scuttle. They are some of the greatest friends and examples of the greatest friends that someone could have ever. Flounder is loyal and supportive through and through. He just wants Ariel to be happy. Sebastian is protective and it does everything in his power to protect Ariel and try to make sure she's okay, but also comes around and sees that she'd be miserable for the rest of her life if he didn't let her do this. So he becomes a supportive friend, and then Scuttle is just, first of all, so funny. My favorite line in the entire film has to do with Scuttle, and it's, oh, someone should find that poor animal and put it out of its misery. But Scuttle is also just so supportive. He might be a little bit of an idiot, but all he wants is Ariel to be happy and to help Ariel become happy. And that is some of the best friendship examples in the world, and I couldn't not talk about them. I also want to say that Ariel is fearless. She's one of the bravest people ever. She jumps in and saves Eric when all she's heard is that people kill mermaids and fish. So she jumps in to save Eric, risking being seen. She goes straight to the sea witch. She's just fearless. But I also want to talk about how I said that she wanted to be part of that world. She just didn't have like that extra oomph, and that two things happen to give that extra oomph. One, she meets Eric and she sings that reprise and she says, I don't know when and I don't know how, but something's starting and I will be part of your world. So it kind of starts to really grind in her that she really wants to be, she obviously knows she wants to be part of that world. She's already saying about it, but she meets Eric and she's like, something's happening. Like, I have feelings for this person. I want to be part of that world. And then she goes back home and her dad finds her grotto and he destroys it, which is easily one of the saddest moments ever. I get so emotional. That's not the part I cried at, but it's so powerful in that moment, and it's exactly what would push a 16-year-old to run to someone that might not be the best choice, but someone who can help her accomplish her dream. And yes, hearing her say she's 16 years old and not a child anymore is absolute cringe, because of course she is. And to hear her say she loves him when she's only met him for the 2 minutes and he didn't even speak, absolute cringe. But she's a 16-year-old girl. Of course she's like, I love him, but she wanted to go to the service before that. So there's all these arguments. It's like, yeah, okay, cringe to hear her say she loves him when she's only known him for 2 minutes and also she's 16. But she's 16, so of course she loves him after 2 minutes, and like, of course she thinks she's an adult. That's how that works. I'm gonna take this moment and talk about how the songs move the plot forward. Wow, do the songs move the plot forward, and they're so effortlessly part of the plot. I feel like more recently some Disney movies with songs have had songs that fit and move the plot forward, but they aren't seamless. Like, you don't know that, you're not like, oh, we're singing now. Where with Little Mermaid, it's like, she's speaking. Maybe he's right. Maybe there is something the matter with me, but I don't see how a world filled with such wonderful things could be bad. Look at this stuff. Like, it's just part of her conversation and she starts singing. The same with Poor Unfortunate Souls. Like, she literally, if that song didn't exist, that whole scene is gone. Like, they don't make the deal. That's a plot song. And she's like, yeah, okay, like, I admit in the past I've been a nasty. They weren't calling when they called me, well, a witch. Like, it's just a conversation set to music, and it's so seamlessly and effortlessly moved into the conversation that you're just like, oh, they're singing now. Okay, great. Like, this is awesome. It makes total sense. Another complaint about this movie I hear a lot is that Eric falls in love with a girl who can't speak, and that's really, like, not okay, because it teaches that, you know, like, silence is the best way to win a man, and yes, I see this argument 100%, but this time when I was watching it, I, like, really paid attention, and her personality shines through so heavily. She does everything she sang about. They dance, they stroll, she does the carriage ride, she gets to see his kingdom, and she takes control. She's like, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna take control of the reins. And he's along for the ride, and he's falling for her through her actions and her personality showing through like a frackin' sunbeam. And it's so cute. And he's so shy and hesitant to kiss her because he's unsure, you know? He's like, hey man, like, she can't speak. I can't know, you know? But he guesses her name, which is super cute, and she's all excited. And I think it's hysterical that it's obviously, like, would have been a consensual kiss because she's so mad the entire time when he doesn't kiss her. Her annoyed faces crack me up to this day. Chef Louis and Sebastian's side storyline is easily one of the funniest things in any movie ever. Just Zootru, I missed one. It's just such an amazing scene. Le Poisson is like makes me laugh every time, especially when he's like hee 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 ha ha ha. It's just so good. And then at the end, when Sebastian like beats him by getting like chandelier and stuff, it's just so good. What I think a lot of people don't notice, or maybe I was just an idiot, I didn't notice it. I already knew by this time I watched it, but a couple years ago when I was watching the film, it clicked that Jodie Benson is Vanessa. Like, Jodie Benson is being Vanessa's voice, because obviously it's supposed to be Ariel's voice, and she sings, but her singing, because she's Ursula as Vanessa with Ariel's voice, is so different. She's just like, you know, the prince will be mine, and she's just so nasty about it, and I never, like, it never clicked in my brain because she sounds so different than Ariel, but that's the point, and I just wanted to applaud Jodie Benson for a hot minute. Also, so much happens at the end of this film that is extraordinary. Eric finds out she's a mermaid and literally doesn't care. He just like swoops in and is like, time to save everybody. I can't breathe underwater, but here I am trying to save everyone. And then Ariel's like, I'm gonna save him. And then she gets hurt. And then Triton sacrifices himself for Ariel, which is just like hurts my soul to the very end because it's so beautiful. And then obviously we're in the age of killing villains, so Ursula dies. Bye-bye Ursula. And then at the end, when Triton says, you know, there's just one matter, how much I'm going to miss her, I got so emotional. And then when her legs, like her fin started to change into legs, Ariel's face, I sobbed. Also, her sparkly dress, way better than any other dress she ever wears, ever. I want her to be in that sparkly dress all the time. I cried so good at the end of this movie. It's just so prime. And the movie has no fat on it. It flies. It moves so fast. Every scene is necessary. And it's just really, really good. We did it. That is everything I have for The Little Mermaid. I know it was so long, but y'all hung in. We all hung in. And we did that. It is the 300th. I cannot believe it's been 3 years. It's been 300 movies. The Little Mermaid is like 300th. It's just so beautiful. It's the anniversary. It's just, I am just so ecstatic. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for sticking through it because it was a long one. But it was so worth it. There was so much valuable information about this movie, and I love it to pieces, quite obviously. I have to give it a 10. 10 mermaids out of 10, 10 crabs out of 10, 10 fish out of 10, 10 seashells out of 10, 10 everything out of 10. This movie is extraordinary, and it has a very, very special place in my heart. Our total movie count is 300! Our cry count is There was no parent death, they never say it or see it on screen. If you want to keep up with what movie I'm watching when, follow me on Instagram or Twitter. You'll find out what movie I'm watching when. You have one more day to enter the giveaway. I hope you enjoyed the behind the scenes. I hope you enjoyed ranking the Disney classics. I hope you enjoyed the 300th. I will see you tomorrow for the anniversary video. I already did that. I put out videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but a week straight for the celebration. Until tomorrow, comment, like, subscribe, and I'm sure if you are, so you do, and don't be Ursula about it. Gonna meet Ariel. I wanna meet Ariel. 300 video meeting Ariel. Hello.
This way. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. You know, I think Ariel's been looking to expand the crew and make it a little bit bigger. Do you think we can borrow? Well, all of them. Do you think we can borrow all of them?
Yeah, sure.
That would be the best.
Thank
It was
you.
wonderful to see you.
You too. Thank you. Happy anniversary again.
Enjoy yourself in the kingdom. Thank you.
The store didn't have peanut butter M&Ms. I feel like that kind of became our staple and our joke. So I had to get normal ones. Also, I ate that shrimp at 11 in the morning. I did not want it. Also, I hate sushi, so that's why it never got put in my mouth. Fun fact about me.